Have you ever wanted to start a business, start a podcast, or try something new? If you answer yes to those three questions, this video is going to talk about why you can't stop failure. Whenever you try something new, whenever you put yourself out there, whenever you discover something new, you will fail. You will not only fail, but you will learn how to do better. You will grow. You will improve. In addition to that, you will understand what you are doing. So today, if this is your first time here, welcome to the Phase Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Terryl Humphrey, and over the last half a decade, we've produced over 893 podcast episodes while helping 18 people launch their podcast with confidence. First thing first, what we're going to talk about today is failure. Like, you cannot stop failure from happening. It is like when you try something new, you will fail, but you have to be okay knowing that you will fail. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let me go ahead and share my screen right quick. Hold on. There we go. You can't stop failure from happening. And I tell you this, a half a decade ago, not even half a decade ago, before I joined the Marine Corps, when I joined the Marine Corps, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, what I wanted to become, who I wanted to serve, and what passion I was looking for. I didn't know I had a passion. I just knew I wanted to do something differently. While growing up in Little Rock, Arkansas, there's nothing wrong with Little Rock, Arkansas. Shout out to Little Rock, Arkansas. But if I wanted to do something different, if I wanted to be something different, if I wanted to see different, I had to do something that was uncomfortable. So when I spoke with the recruiter, the Marine Corps recruiter, when I spoke to him looking for opportunity, looking for something different. Like I knew I wasn't going to play pro football. I knew I wasn't going to do that because I wasn't that tall. I'm not that big. And what that taught me is that one, failure means you are trying. And I say trying, I gotta rewrite failure. Failure means that you are trying. When I had the conversation with my recruiter, I was trying to become different. I was trying to see something different. You see, when he said, okay, this is what we're going to do, we're going to sit down, have a conversation, and see what are your goals, what are your dreams, what are your aspirations, what are you looking to do? And we sat down, had the whole conversation. It was me. This is me. And then recruiter. And he asked me, and we had a conversation. That conversation was understanding what my goals were, my dreams were. I'm just like, man, I just want something different. I don't know what different is. I just know I want to be different. I want something different than my hometown, which is Little Rock, Arkansas, which is nothing wrong with that. Nonetheless, being okay with the failure or being okay with trying something new helps me understand that I'm literally trying something that's out of my comfort zone. I'm literally trying something that I know I'm going to fail at. And I'll give you a prime example. In the military, you have to take this test called the ASVAB. And I don't know what it stands for because I know it's an acronym because it's in the military. But the ASVAB is a test that you have to take when you're going to get into the military. Okay. I took this test 3 times. Whatever the max is, I took the max. Why? When I tried something new, I failed. When I studied, I learned, I was taking the test, I failed. Not once, not twice, maybe twice, because I passed on the last time. But I tell you this, it's not the fact that I was afraid to fail. I was trying something new. I'm not going to know all the answers if I don't put myself out there. But what happens a lot of times is that when I started to get into business, podcasting, was that I wanted to learn how to do it. And as I started to learn how to do it, I failed a lot. Failure will happen. And it will happen because it's impossible to avoid. You can study as many times, as much as you would like, as much time as you need. Make sure the microphone okay. You can study for a long period of time. You can go work out for a long period of time. You can go run for a long period of time. When you're trying something new, you're not going to be that great at it. When you're trying something different, you won't be that good at it. When you're trying something that's going to push you out of your comfort zone, you will fail. When I was in the 3rd grade and I got my report card, I got my first D, as in devastated. I thought my mom was going to whoop me. I thought my mom was going to be like, man, son, like, what are you doing? Son, you got to do better. And then when she told me, son, you have to do better. We don't accept failure in here, but what that taught me is that it's okay to try. It's okay to fail. Not failing intentionally, but failing with a goal. Like, it's okay to try something new. You see, failure will happen because trying means you are learning. You are learning. I knew I wanted to have something different, so I wanted to learn what different looked like. Lucky for me, I joined the Marine Corps. That was my path to being different. That was my path to learning. That was my path to failing. It didn't come easy. In fact, it was really challenging. Nonetheless, the lessons that I've learned help me understand that it's okay to fail. I can't run from the failure. In fact, what I do to this day is that there's a path, right? This is me. This is the path. This is called path. This is me. I run to the path. And I run to the path. I run to the failure. I run to the lesson. I run to the new, because the faster I get there, the faster I can learn. I did a podcast training yesterday, and I was doing the training. It was an online training. This is my laptop. And as I was doing it, here go the microphone. Here go the microphone, and this is the training. This is the training. I was literally training yesterday, and I got to a point in the presentation where I start to like actually sell what I was doing. Like, I'm literally talking about the numbers. I'm literally talking about what's included. I'm literally like talking about the business. Then it ended. Like, it literally just put me off. But then I'm like, what just happened? I was getting into the groove. In fact, I got another training today at 10 o'clock. I was getting in the motion. I was getting in the groove. What happens is that failure was unpredicted. I did a podcast 2-3 days ago, and it was for 29 minutes. Let's say 43 seconds. And the whole entire time, there was no audio. And when I didn't even recognize there was no audio, it was somebody in the audience that said, there's no sound. And I looked at it, I'm like, there's no sound? I was literally talking for 29 minutes and 43 seconds. That failure wasn't predictable. See, just because I failed one moment doesn't mean I'm a failure. What it means is that I'm trying. You got to be okay with failure because it means that you're trying. When you get into business, when you start pursuing your passion won't be easy to accomplish, but your passion can be accomplished. You see, when that failure helps you learn, that failure helps you grow. Failure is not bad. I'll tell you this. When I started Failure is Knowledge back in 2021, I tell you, this is a story I want to tell, right? So this is actually a good story. So in 2021, I came up with Failure is Knowledge, right? 2021, Failure is Knowledge. Hello. I came up with Failure is Knowledge, right? Failure is Knowledge. And as I was coming up with it, this is the story I want to share with it. So before FIK, before failures, before I had the idea, I was like, all right, cool. I'm getting to doing what I'm doing. I'm getting content creation, and I'm seeing a lot of different things. And what I'm starting to see is that I'm starting to see like a lot of companies, a lot of corporations have like a three letter word for the company. So it could be like FIK, failures knowledge, or I don't know. I just start to see that pattern. And so when I start to really understand that pattern and what it consisted of, I'm like, maybe I need to have that. Maybe I need to have some type of, I didn't know what it was called back during that time, but I'm like, maybe I need to have something like that. And so what I thought about was this. It was called BAM. And what an acronym is, it's like 3 letters, but every word stands for something. So at this time, I thought I was going to say by any means. And so I got excited. I literally got excited. I was like, ooh, I like that. By any means, I'm going to be successful. By any means, I'm going to make this happen. By any means, I'm going to accomplish this. So I got excited. I got really excited because I thought I figured it out. So I called my friends, my family. I was asking them, like, what do you think it is? I paused. I'm like, what do you think of BAM? BAM. By any means. And I talked to a couple of people, and that was like, oh, I like that. Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I like that. Then I talked to my brother who I played football with and his girlfriend. When I talked to him, they asked me a question I didn't even think about. They said this. They said, did you look up if somebody already has it? I'm like, did I look it up? I'm like, what that mean? No, what you mean? I'm the one that came up with this idea. Now I don't need to look it up. They said, I think it would be good if you just do a basic Google search. And that was before AI, all these different things. So I was like, okay. So I go on to Google and type in by any means. And then press enter. When I pressed enter, I was devastated. I was devastated because of this. Because it was taken. By any means, BAM was taken. Which means that I have to come up with a new idea. And which means I have to come up with something that's similar, which means I have to go out and literally think and process and like get my mind back into the game. So that's what I did. I went out to the road. I went out to the store. In fact, I went to this place and it's called, hold on. And it's called Walmart. And when I went to this place, I got in my car and I drove. It's like 15-20 minute drive. When I went to Walmart, I'm looking at the billboards. I'm looking at the signs. I'm looking at all these different things. So you got billboard here. You got the path right here. You got the car right here. You got billboard. Okay. You have different things that say different things. But what I'm looking for is something that speaks to me. So I go to Walmart and I wasn't even in for like 10 minutes. I was literally in there for like 5 minutes at most. I walked in and started looking at the signs. These are called signs. I started looking at the signs. Fruit. Start looking at fruits. Start looking at the aisles. Start looking around. When I thought of something, I was like, ooh, this sounds good. I was like, what about wisdom is knowledge? Wisdom is knowledge. And I thought this was a good idea. I was like, wisdom is knowledge. So I asked one of the workers that was there. She was the cashier at the time. And I asked, I said, hey, excuse me, sorry to bother you. I said, I'm trying to like make sure that this sounds good or if it even makes sense. I said, can I ask you like if it sounds good? I'm here. She's here. Ask her the question, does this make sense? Does wisdom is knowledge make sense? She looked at me. She thought about it. And she replied, ain't that the same thing? I said, it is. I said, dang, you right. Now, this is another failure. It is another failure because it doesn't make sense. That failure right there doesn't make sense, but guess what it's doing? It's giving me direction. This is called direction. It's giving me direction. Because now I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, cool. It's the same thing. What's the opposite of knowledge? What's the opposite of wisdom? What's the opposite of it? So I'm thinking. Then I was like, the opposite of knowledge is lack of knowing. Like, this is the whole process I'm going through. Like, it's the lack of knowing. I'm like, okay, so what does that even mean? Lack of knowing. Does it mean like you're not educated? So educated is knowledge? No. Same exact thing, Lack of knowledge is, lack of knowing is knowledge? No. But I was digging deep. I was trying to figure it out. Then it hit me. I'm like, failure. I'm like, failure. I'm like, failure. Okay. Is failure the opposite of knowledge? It's failure the opposite of knowledge. Looked it up. Went on Google. Typed in knowledge. Read the meaning. I'm like, all right, cool. Went on Google again. Typed in failure. Read the definition. I was like, they're opposites. They're opposites. And what they did for me, it gave me direction. I'm like, okay, it's opposites. Failure is knowledge. So I went on my on the refrigerator. This is called the refrigerator. Fridge. I'm just gonna put fridge. And it was a little small whiteboard on here. And I typed the word in this. Failure is knowledge. And I step back and I look at it and I read it. I'm like, failure is knowledge. Okay, failure is knowledge. Okay, failure is knowledge. Okay. I'm reading it. Then I ask for feedback. Does this make sense? Failure is knowledge. They said yes. I said, I got it. What did I get? I got the failures that I was looking for, because failure, like whenever you're trying something new, you can't avoid failure. I was leaning into the failure. What they taught me was this. The time, effort, energy, drive, and me just thinking helped me understand that failure is okay. You have to be okay with failure, because that failure is going to teach you something. That failure taught me what the opposite was of knowledge. The knowledge, if you don't have no wisdom, if you don't have no education, oftentimes you might feel like a failure. When I didn't have what I was looking for, when I didn't have my passion, my purpose, I felt like a failure. When I got my first D, as in devastated, I felt like a failure. But that failure taught me something. It taught me the knowledge that I needed. So the first point that I talk about was that failure means that you're trying. And when you're trying, you're literally putting yourself out there. Next point that we want to talk about is this. You have to, this is really important. You have to pivot. In business, there's a terminology called pivoting. Like when you pivot, you go from doing one thing to doing another and then change it and so on and so forth. Pivot into your success. Failure, you cannot avoid failure. Failure will happen. Failure, it's like whenever you put yourself out there, you will fail. I'll give you another prime example. I remember one day I went outside and I was about to get in my car. When I was about to get in my car, I literally, for some reason, told me to look at my tires. As I looked, as I walked to my car and looked at the tires, I'm talking about literally. Hold on. I'm talking about literally had a flat tire. And this flat tire came out of nowhere because I'm like, what is going on? How did I get a flat tire? So you're telling me out of 4 tires, 1 is flat. That failure was unexpected. That failure was not planned. That failure just so happened. It's different when you go put yourself out there than when you put yourself out there and you just end up failing. I started to put myself out there so many different times. I failed at so many different phases of my life. That failure taught me something. What it taught me about the flat tire is that I needed to change it. But then the flat tire had a screw in it. It had a screw in it. And I'm like, how did I get a screw in there? You see, the failure helps you learn what the knowledge is talking about. Okay. Prime example, how did I know it was a failure? I looked at it. I literally looked at the nail, at the screw. And I'm like, okay, I got to get it out. I know how to get it out. Went to, I think my wife, if I'm not mistaken, I think my wife either went to go take me to the store or I got it myself. Nonetheless, that knowledge helped me learn what the failure was. Failure is not always bad. You see, when you learn how to pivot in business, when you learn how to pivot for your passion, you're going to be changing a lot. Change equals growth. If you're not changing, you're not growing. If you're not growing, you're not trying. That failure forces you to try. When I start to really understand what I was doing, I was literally trying every single day. I want to be better. I want to improve. I want to do better. But I have to be okay with failing along the path, failing along the journey, and failing at the first attempt, second attempt, maybe the third attempt. I have to be okay with the failure because that failure is going to teach me the knowledge. That failure turns setbacks into success. Many times is knowing that you won't be successful. It's knowing that even if you give it your best, you're going to fail. You cannot stop failure from happening, but what you can do is work towards the failure. Like, how fast can I fail to learn this information? When I started going to school for business management, it blew my mind because it was something that I was like on the right path for. The path is always there. Here, I'm just gonna put it here. But until I or you go to the path won't be created. Knowing that failure is going to happen and being okay with the lessons, with the growth, with the understanding, with the education, many times is recognizing that you're growing. In addition to that, you're learning. In addition to that, you're applying. In addition to that, you are trying. You can't be afraid to fail because if you're afraid to fail, you are not trying. You are not challenging yourself. You are not putting yourself out there. You are not encouraging yourself. You don't have the skills. You don't need the skills. When I start podcasting, I didn't have the skills. The skills got developed as I start to grow. You see, it's not just about recording content, having conversations, having interviews. It's literally about finding your purpose. It's about finding your passion. It's about finding what works for you. Because what works for you don't work for everybody. And when I started to see the difference, I was like, oh, this is different. When you pivot into your success, you're learning how to grow. You're learning how to change. You're learning how to evolve. Your evolution comes from you understanding that it's okay to fail. It's okay to fail. Why? Because you are literally trying. If you're not trying, you're not growing. If you're not growing, you're not failing. If you're not failing, you're not learning. Last point I want to hit on is this. Point number 3 is to ask for feedback. In the podcast production business that I have, I ask for a lot of feedback. Not asking for validation, I'm asking for feedback. Is it working for you? Does it make sense? Does this need to change? How was your experience? In business, you have to get a lot of feedback to see what's working, what's not working, why is it working, why is it not working. Feedback helps you learn how to turn that failure into knowledge. It's not easy. Oh, it's not easy. But it doesn't need to be easy. When I first picked up my first book and read it from cover to cover, the first book that I ever read was Rich Dad Poor Dad. And it was a book that I had some interest in. And I was learning from it, and I was encouraged to read it. And then once I finished it, it changed my whole perspective. Why? I literally read it from page to page to page to page. I literally read it from word to word to word to word. What does this do for me? It gave me knowledge. It gave me knowledge that I still apply today. Some people say there's an acronym, another one, and it's called KISS. Keep it simple. Some say silly, some say stupid, some say whatever. It's overall, just keep it simple. If you keep it simple, watch this, you will fail. Shout out to my wife. One day we was talking. She was like, I never understood your concept of failure. And even though she didn't understand the concept of failure, she literally thought about it. And she was like, oh, you don't think you're a failure. It's just that moment that you failed at, you have to learn from it. When you fail at something, you're not a failure. When you fail at something, you're just learning. You just have to give yourself permission to change. You have to give yourself permission to learn. You have to give yourself permission to evolve. There's some things that's easy to understand. Moreover, there's a lot of things that's difficult to understand. You have to be okay with not being able to understand the failure. This is where you force yourself to gain the knowledge. You gain the skills. You gain the education. When I got my first D, I was devastated because I felt like a failure. That moment when my mama said, son, you gotta do better, I'm like, she just gave you permission to fail. Not directly, but she gave me permission to try. She gave me permission to try. Trying is not a failure. Procrastinating. I don't know how to spell procrastinating. Close enough. Procrastinating is a failure. Over analyzing, ZING, is a failure. Not taking action is a failure. What's the pattern here? The pattern is that in order for you to be a failure, you literally have to not do something. In order for you to be considered a failure, you have to procrastinate. You have to delay your effort. You have to not take risks. You see, in order to become a failure, just don't do anything. Don't even do anything. And when you don't do something, that's why you feel like a failure. If you literally just try to do something You're doing what 99% of most people don't do, which is put themselves out there, which is try something new, which is challenge themselves, which is encourage themselves, and which is do something that they're not good at. I'm learning how to play the piano. I'm not good at playing the piano. But if I practice learning the keys, learning the sounds, learning the rhythm, learning how to play the song, play the beat, then I will get better. But I'm trying. Just because I failed at playing a song and I hit the wrong note doesn't mean I'm a failure. What it means is that I'm trying. Hold on. See, you gotta be okay with trying. You cannot avoid the failure because the failure is going to happen when you try something new. You gotta be okay with that because the more you learn, the more knowledge that you gain. So to recap everything that we talked about today, which was a phenomenal episode, was point number one, we talked about this. Point number one, failure means you are trying. Just because it goes wrong the first time doesn't mean you are a failure. What it means is that you got to keep doing it. You got to keep trying. I saw a video with Kim Kardashian and she failed the bar exam. She's taking like the law exam and she failed it 3 different times. It might seem like she's a failure, but she's literally trying. Like you gotta be okay with trying. Point number 2 was hold on. Point number 2 was you have to pivot into your success. You're gonna change a lot, you're gonna evolve a lot, and you're gonna learn everything that you're doing. As you learn, be okay with pivoting, be okay with changing, be okay with evolving. And the last point that we talked about was you got to ask for feedback. In business, you have to ask for a lot of feedback. You have to ask for a lot of testimonials. You just have to ask for a lot. So don't be afraid to ask for feedback to see why did you fail and how can you do better, right? The goal is to do better. If you can do better based off the feedback that you receive, you're in a better position than majority of the people that's out there. So be okay with failure because you never know what you're going to learn. Lastly, don't be afraid to fail because failure is knowledge. And if you're growing, if you're a podcaster, business owner, aspiring content creator, whatever the case is, if you're building something and want to join a community, make sure you hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, because we're not just only talking about podcasting, we're talking about how to turn that failure into knowledge because you're trying. When you try, you have to be okay with failure. So make sure you hit that follow button, hit that subscribe, and then we will see you on the next one.